we're going to do something different with this Green PSA. We're going to talk about changing Baltimore. Today, we have Richard Best from Section 1. Welcome, how are you?
Good, thanks for having me.
Good, glad to have you here. So tell us about Section 1.
So Section 1 is we're a nonprofit organization. And right now we're working on an initiative to transform a derelict, like abandoned 3.5 acre site that's located directly behind Micah underneath Highway 83 into what will be the world's largest urban art park as it is.
Oh, wow.
So it's a site that will feature over 70,000 square feet of street art, 3 live performance venues, a skate park, and this really amazing green space.
It sounds amazing. So was there an aha moment for you that made you wanted to start this project?
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting story. I got a call from a local friend of mine who is a local street artist. And he's like, hey man, you need to come check out this space under this bridge. And this is in Station North, and I'm like, okay, well, what bridge are you talking about? I mean, I live in this community. I have no idea that there's this space under this bridge that even exists. So,
surprise.
Yeah. So he gives me like this treasure map. He's like, go behind Micah's Fox building and find Buddha, and then take a right and duck down behind these.
Meet Indiana Jones.
Meet Indiana Jones. Duck down behind these cameras and navigate through this labyrinth of train track tunnels, and you'll find us out here on the right. And sure enough, I did that. And at the end of this treasure map, there was actually treasure, and there was this massive abandoned space. There's graffiti everywhere, and I go, and I guess really my immediate reaction is here we have this abandoned space that this subculture of artists in Baltimore has found value in, but they're being prosecuted for using it. It's this abandoned space. So, that was the aha moment. I was like, well, wait a minute. We're in this amazing creative community. We're right behind Micah, right in the heart of Baltimore's, creative cultural, center. So why don't we just try to open up this park and turn it into a community asset and a platform for creative expression?
Okay. So what would this urban art park bring to the city of Baltimore?
We have a really amazing culture in Baltimore. We have a city full of artists. And so having this space not only will be able to bring together this culturally diverse and creatively diverse community and celebrate what that is and be able to highlight Baltimore and elevate it through its arts and show the rest of the world just how amazing of a city it is. But not only is it a source of inspiration for the local community, but whenever we'll be able to help increase tourism, bring more people to the city so they can all share our love for what makes Baltimore great.
Yeah. So how does Section 1 plan to collaborate with the artists and other creative industries in the city?
Well, so the whole premise of this park is not that it's going to be designed by us or architects, and quite often, that's a problem that we have, and people will build and design for this community that they're not necessarily part of, and we lose an ability to innovate by not understanding how these individuals are going to use this space. So for us, this is an inclusive process where we're bringing together the people in our community, skateboarders and street artists and various community leaders and community organizations and educational organizations to understand how they can use this space to create a value for their organization and for their constituencies.
Yeah.
And so, through this collaboration to be able to understand really what this park needs to look like rather than what we want it to look like. And then design to have the biggest impact possible.
Yeah, you seem really passionate about making sure that everyone's included in this process. I mean, why do you think it's so important that we create the active, creative culture in the community and making sure that everyone's a part of that conversation?
Well, I mean, quite often what you'll see with creative placemaking or, utilizing urban arts as a means of revitalization, at some point, whenever that economy starts to grow, there's problems with gentrification and those people get disenfranchised.
Yes.
But I think the solution to that is to not be afraid of revitalization, but rather make it that inclusive with the people that are in that community. And then through that participation, give voice to that community. So, as problems start to arise with, economic development, or as people starting to like get pushed out of the city or pushed out of that community because it grows, there is that platform there for them to actually communicate and participate, and that only happens if you activate them and you create the opportunity for them to join in that conversation.
So ultimately, what do you hope the citizens of Baltimore are going to get out of this project?
I think it depends who you are. If you're an artist, you have a space to have a voice. City like nationwide rather. On average, cities spend $3 per resident cleaning up vandalism. So in Baltimore, that equates to roughly $2 million a year that you spend on cleaning up like vandalism and graffiti. So why don't why don't we, instead of having prohibition and prohibiting this form, we invest that money into an outlet, into facilitating that need. So that's one. We'll have that voice and be able to potentially save some money and create a different conversation as like how and why arts are important to our city, and give it culture and give it life, not just for graffiti, but also have a space for the local music. Rolling Stones voted Baltimore in 2008 as being one of the best cities for independent music. So we're infuse that with this amazing creative visual arts that we have, infuse that with the skateboard culture and the hip hop culture, and this innovative spirit with the tech organization, and bring them to a space where we have an actual just a testing ground. Like amazing things will come out of that, not only just for Baltimore, but we'll be able to create a precedent in urban design that the rest of the world will look at, and Baltimore will be the center of that conversation.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about your company. You recently went public. That's got to be exciting, right? Yeah. So what benefit does a nonprofit organization gain by even undertaking an IPO? Right.
So we're trying to be a little clever there. I mean, obviously, nonprofits do not have equity to sell.
Exactly.
Right. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is that nonprofits are actually public asset, or they're owned by the public. And so for us, we want to celebrate that. We really want to enforce that idea that our community, they own us, and we are here to serve them. And so through this IPO, our initial public offering of community revitalization, of transforming these underutilized spaces into creative, culture, creative assets, into reimagining public spaces and transforming them into these platforms for creative expression, and that really requires participation from our community. And so we really want them to know that they own us, that we are here to serve them, and for them to participate in this process. And that's the benefit, and that's what it signifies.
Yeah, that's great. And how can the community help support your current project and any future initiatives to build and revitalize arts in the city?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, they can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at Section 1 Project. Come find us on Facebook and help us paint the future of Baltimore.
Well, thank you so much for being in the studio with us today, Richard. It was great having you.
Thanks for having me.
For more information, go to goodnewsbaltimore.org and sit tight because we have more coming up next.